Well, I mean, yeah. How you doing, Ed? You all right?
Good. Yeah. Chipper. I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Anything? Can we like? It's got cold here. It's just the weather's turned. I've had to put the heating up because
that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yep.
So yeah, when it started raining now and it'll stop in March sort of time. Yeah.
T20 World Cup's happening. England bowled West Indies out for 55. That was fun.
It was quite impressive.
Adil Rashid.
That's a team full of elite performers knowing what their job is. Unlike at Manchester United.
Oh, God.
I genuinely, we were just talking before starting to record, and I was thinking, I didn't tweet it out, but I was thinking about doing something like that. Like, I don't know what to say about this. I mean, I can do some analysis, which will boil down to 4 of Liverpool's goals came from a ball that was worked from left to right, and Maguire chasing the ball and getting himself out of position, and Shaw, trying to cover 2 players and not covering either. So it was. What struck me about the game is Liverpool just didn't need to actually be that intense for most of it. It just worked it in triangles, simple football, structured football. You know, they have something to fall back on if they're not playing well, but they are playing well. And United just couldn't cope with it. Just out of position constantly. I mean, honestly, if Liverpool basically hadn't switched off after 60 minutes, that could and should have surpassed Chelsea's score on Saturday. So.
Yeah, they just were containing and conserving energy, weren't they? They weren't. The only person that was desperate to get a goal was Sadio Mane, and then Curtis Jones, who was so annoyed that Sadio Mane hadn't passed to him that he then didn't pass to him back, which was funny. Twice. Twice. I was just doing Pep Guardiola there. There were 2 funny bits of this game for me. There was that, and then Cristiano Ronaldo's goal getting VAR'd off. But, I appreciate other people may feel differently about that being funny.
I won't repeat the joke I put in the WhatsApp group, because,
No, probably best.
Although a grown is good as a laugh.
No. Sometimes you make society worse.
But what about my joke? Yeah. Anyway, talking of Ronaldo, yes, he had one rolled off, and Edison Cavani managed to somehow miss one from a yard out. Well, he missed the ball completely, and it came off the defender's knee and hit the bar. Scott McTominay had a good opportunity. United actually out XG'd their actual score. Is that a positive? Woohoo!
Well, I mean, you only need to have one shot to out XG naught goals, right?
This is true. And
you could De Gea could have had a shot from a goal, not a goal kick, but with the ball in his hands, and that would have out XG'd.
I mean, United did have a few shots in this game, but they were all pot shots from positions. It always just felt like United were labouring with every phase of the game. So obviously couldn't cope with Liverpool's pass and move and simple triangles at all defensively, like from midfield through, and especially through the back 4. But going forward as well, it just always felt like a struggle. I mean, we keep talking about how much talent United have got in the squad, but it doesn't show. I mean, it's definitely less than the sum of the parts. You
talked beforehand about us being worried about just saying the same thing over and over again. The problem is signing Ronaldo. I know. I'm leaving now, so I can just be bullish. I don't care anymore. But this is actually. I mean, obviously the manager's a big problem, to which we'll come on to. So that Gary Neville spent a lot of the game talking about the players, as always happens in these situations. But the complete absence of a plan was extremely evident, or the sort of caught between 2 stalls nature of the plan that we tried to press without any organised pressing triggers, like without the right personnel to do it. But once we signed Ronaldo, the scale of player that he is, he plays every single game. I don't know, maybe I've said more positive things about his signing at some point from a football perspective, but he's an absolutely enormous problem to every structural problem that United have. The thing is, if the rest of United's structure made sense, if we had a solid kind of core from centre back through centre midfield, you could carry Ronaldo happily, and you'd benefit immensely from all the stuff that he's extraordinarily good at. But in a team that makes as little sense as United, putting a piece in that now makes absolutely no sense whatsoever from a tactical perspective, you're completely screwed. On the Football Ramble on Friday, that I think it was Luke Moore who said United would be absolutely mad to start this game with Cristiano Ronaldo against Liverpool, but they're definitely going to. And he's not someone I often agree with, but I just wholeheartedly agree with that point.
For sure, United are definitely a better team with Cavani in it. But we've got ourselves two major sort of tactical structural problems. One is Ronaldo and the fact that he's not the trigger for the press, and he doesn't, his movement is limited solely to getting in a position to get a shot. He still is elite at finding himself the opportunity to shoot. And the other is what you do with Paul Pogba, and Solskjaer has gone back to this, gone back to dropping Pogba, going for pace around Ronaldo in order to support Ronaldo, and going for the seemingly more defensive option of McFred in midfield. But if if McFred is bypassed so easily as it was today, and there's not much movement up front. Well, United had one out ball all the time, always Marcus Rashford, always, right? It was so obvious before the game started. It's so one-dimensional as an approach going forward or defensively that United have a huge problem all of the time.
And we were so close to solving the one-dimensional problem with the signing of Jadon Sancho and the prospect of really being able to balance that attack out. And now instead, that's the opposite has happened because of an impulse buy at the end of the transfer window that was designed to, whatever. Maybe it was designed to stop City getting him, or maybe that was just a play from Ronaldo to try and get himself out of Juventus, whatever. But United have been brought in hook, line and sinker and have mortgaged themselves. I'm not even talking about the morality of this at all. I'm just saying tactically they've mortgaged themselves to Ronaldo, and whoever comes in to replace Solskjaer, because there's no way Solskjaer is sitting out the season, no chance.
Doesn't seem
whoever
like it.
comes in. No, whoever comes in to replace him's got a massive problem to solve that isn't going to be easy and obvious how you solve it. So, you mentioned Pogba. He spoke out after the game before last, whoever it was against Leicester, the Leicester game, saying something's got to change. And I just dropped him for 2 games in a row. It's like, yep, something's got to change. It turns out it's you. I mean, he was terrible when he came on and got himself sent off. But actually, against Atalanta, he was, I thought, part of the reason we came back into that game in the way we did.
For sure. Look, Mark Wilson, former United player, now coach in the US, tweeted after the game, clearly defined game model and principles with and without the ball, simplified decision making and connect players in motion. It's more evident now than ever that the best teams in the world anchor training sessions and player development and learning to this. What do you see? Hashtag MUNLIV. I mean, absolutely this. And yeah. I know it's become a cliche across this podcast, other podcasts, print media and social media, to say it doesn't look like United are coached going forward. But it's true, isn't it? Right? They want this loose front four. And the problem with that is that when the players aren't playing well, there's nothing to fall back on. Just nothing. And we've got 2 players in Maguire and Shaw who've completely regressed over the summer. I don't know whether tired or injured, unfit, both, lost focus. Don't know what it is.
Emotionally exhausted from the Euros?
Yeah, it could be genuinely. That, right? But so when there's nothing to fall back on, this is what you get. And, we had that great half against Atalanta, second half, where actually there wasn't much structure. He threw so many players on there. It was, a real Hail Mary, and Atalanta, without 3 of their key defenders, completely crumbled. And that's why I didn't get overexcited about that one, because I didn't want to be negative, like on the last minute goal or anything like that, because I know people hate that. But for me, that didn't signal anything. So we've had that half of craziness and the game against Leeds and 20 minutes against Newcastle. And apart from that, it's a long way back in terms of performance standards from last season.
I was going to say, when you mentioned Leeds, then there's 2 teams in the world you can have that half we had against Atalanta against. That's Leeds and Atalanta. Right. They're the only 2 teams that are open enough. And as you say, that's Atalanta without 3 of their best defenders. The Paul Scholes said as the game ended and they did the bit where it's on the camera's still on the pitch and the pundits are talking in the studio. He says, I understand why everyone's excited and there's good feeling around, and comeback wins are great and everything. But that, to be honest, that first half put me off the second half, and that's exactly how I felt about that comeback. It was great and for the interest of balance and also to represent the truth more fully, that's exactly what Solskjaer's been good at all the way through his time at United, galvanising the team into action in key moments and allowing really talented players to express themselves in a way that massively impacts on scorelines. He's done that consistently, but what he's never done is made us look anything. Liverpool were at. I mean, Carragher said this in the first half, and I think he was serious, and I think it was absolutely true. Having watched them this season, they were at 75%. They strolled to a 5-0 win at Old Trafford. Strolled, we conceded in 5 minutes, and I messaged to say this could get really messy, which I know is very obvious, but actually, if you think about it, it's a slightly odd way to respond to United going behind, given what's happened consistently. But there was no sign at any point in this game, maybe a little bit of a flourish at 2-0, but Liverpool have got a level of quality that the teams that we are able to get back into games against can't get near, and so that it was easy for them to accelerate again, and once it was 3-0, it was totally dead and buried. And
they gave up on the high press at 2-0. I was I watched it in a pub with a friend of mine, who by the way, I know we don't take listener questions these days, but shout out to Gaurav, who says, throwback to a previous question, what is Solskjaer's best position? And right now I'm thinking it's on the bench in Mulder. But 2-0 Liverpool stopped pressing. They just dropped back to a mid-block and just waited for the opportunities to pick United off, and they came to them before half-time. And it's really, it's quite a miracle they ended up 5-0. And that's really because Pogba got sent off. They ended up 5-0, and not more than that, because Liverpool just dropped all their intensity after that and just slowed the game right down. And there were only a few moments where they quickened it up. And when they did quicken it up, they opened United up. So it is solely down to the opposition just shutting off that this wasn't even worse.
Yeah, and worth saying on the Pogba sending off, United lost their discipline very badly. There's 3 incidents that I thought summed that up. One, when Rashford tried to pass the ball back to Luke Shaw and played a 60-yard through ball to Mo Salah, that just felt very like heads gone here, because it was just absolutely awful. When Ronaldo was kicking the Liverpool player as he was lying down, and really, to be honest,
got the ball, ref, got the ball.
I know you could argue you couldn't, not that you could argue it. The rules would say that is a yellow card offence. To take 2 swings at the player to try and hurt him, I don't understand why that's not dangerous play. And then the Pogba one was awful, and he's clearly really hurt the player. So, yeah. And even if the player had got away with it, there's still the same result, because that's what leads to players being led off pitches were taken off pitches. On the stretcher.
Exactly why that rule had been clarified many years ago now around what is dangerous. What is dangerous play? So in every definition that is a red card. It is interesting, and it will be noted. I haven't searched for this, but it will be noted that Kevin De Bruyne got away with one in the Champions League where they seem to put some kind of weighting on getting any kind of touch on the ball. Right. So there's an inconsistency in how that's applied. But the referee took his time, went over, checked the monitor. It's really high. It's above the ball, and studs are onto the shin. So in every definition, that's a red card. He lasted longer than Steven Gerrard. That's the only thing I can say about that one. But it might have the same effect on Liverpool fans, I imagine. And then Bruno got himself booked as well for similar levels of violence and frustration after that. So it was very close to United really losing it, but they'd lost it long before the frustration in the second half came to a boil, obviously. So is there anything redeeming about this that you can think of?
No, there was nothing redeeming about this performance. I don't think a single United player played well. Bruno made a couple of nice touches in the first half. I thought United were totally and utterly abysmal from about the 3.5 minute to the end of the game. I mean, they kept their shape functionally at 5-0. Well done.
Yeah, well, they went to
where they had
5 at the back, didn't they? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I wasn't claiming it as a wild positive, you know. I mean, there was a shot which I've never seen anything like this before. In about the 65th minute, Sky cut to an aerial shot of the forecourt outside Old Trafford, and it looked like the end of the game. People are pouring out of the stadium, and you know, of course, there's United. Old Trafford is a nightmare to get out of. So 80th minute, 2-0 up. A lot of people are leaving the stadium.
Yeah.
And that is what it is, because you're saving yourself like 6 hours to get home or whatever in some cases. But this was not that. This was people thinking, what is the point of us being here? They were booed off at half time 2 games in a row. And there weren't many boos at the end of the game, but that's because
there weren't many casual fans left. Yeah, no. I mean,
well, I don't think the people that booed are defined as being casual fans.
Maybe that's not the right definition, but look, there was a core of United fans left at Old Trafford who were going to cheer the team on. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
Sure.
I mean, you're right. Old Trafford is both with public transport and especially if you've got a car, very hard to get out of. 15 minutes before the game is finished, or just resign yourself to sitting in the motor for an hour before you can move. So as I say, I don't blame people. It didn't look good. I'm sure there'll be many City fans enjoying that, given the fun that is poked at them. Over the years for the empty seats, because there were a lot of empty seats at Old Trafford before this one finished. But as you just said, nothing redeeming about this, and it's very hard to see anything redeeming coming. I think, and again, maybe this is obvious, but is there an elite club, one of the Dirty Dozen who tried to form the franchise league, any one of those stick with a manager after a 5-0 home drubbing against your biggest rivals? I mean, I know Mourinho's Madrid lost 5-0 to the greatest team that's ever been created once, and they didn't sack him. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't. It's all context. It's all contextual.
5 defeats in good context as well for a mega spanking.
Yeah, quite, and the wins have been shoddy, and there's a couple of draws in there as well. So, like, real bad run. And, I mean, he's got to go at this point. Ollie Solskjaer's not turning Man United around from here, right? That's not, I mean, maybe, who knows, things can happen, but seems remarkably unlikely to me. But there's no relish in that. It's not like when Mourinho was sacked, because unlike Mourinho, I think there are I suppose Mourinho literally won trophies for United, that's generally considered a good thing. But I was going to say there's no redeeming features of the Mourinho era at United. So literally, apart from the 2 trophies he won, but that was in his first season, right?
3. Come on. Community Shield. Be fair to the man.
My apologies.
The greatest manager that has ever lived. TM. Bodo Glimt 6. Roma 1.
Oh, Patreon backers, stay tuned for a good time, baby. Oh no, I'm saving it. I'm saving it for the paid content.
So Solskjaer on his future said after the game, "No doubts, I've come too far, and we've come too far as a group to give up now." I mean, this is appealing to the sunk capital theory that you don't want to dig up that road because we just repaved it.
Yep, absolutely. And it's an emotional appeal to suggest, but and listen, maybe Ollie Solskjaer's got a plan that I can't see, but I don't understand why his team, which is not dramatically unsettled as a lineup from last season, and in theory has been only improved since last season, looks like they've never seen each other before, until their backs are massively against the wall and the other team is giving them loads of space, at which point they become very good. And that, there is. You mentioned at the beginning, we keep saying there's a lot of attacking talent. There is an incredible amount of technical ability in the attack that United have. I mean, the goal Rashford scored against Atalanta, I mean, I know he missed considerably easier chances earlier than that, but it's an amazing goal. It's a phenomenal through ball from Bruno, who I thought was, he was just majestic against Atalanta. And the ball from Shaw to Ronaldo's header, like there's just super, super high levels of quality execution. But like today, I don't even know which one it was. Maybe Salah's third goal was a very high level of execution, but that was happening on top of a team that looked like you could take pieces out of it and replace it with other players, and a team that knows what it's doing at a very, very, very high level. And
right.
And the thing that's so hard is United should be aspiring to have a coach where you're not like, oh, well, he does these three things well, but shame about all these other really important things, especially the things that are the most important in taking you from this team's pretty good and might do something to, nope, this is a serious team that's definitely
talking about sunk capital, we all have emotional sunk capital in the turnaround that Solskjaer has brought. The fact that he got players out that he didn't want, were underperforming, and has taken United to a level above where they were at the stage 4 of Mourinho. And it was terminal at that point. And now you ask a different question of Solskjaer, don't you? And I think it's fair to judge him in harsher terms because he's been given the time. I mean, in modern football terms, 3 years. It's we're very close to 3 years in the job. That's a long time, and 400 odd million spent in the transfer market. So it's not perfect. This squad, There's a bit of a horseshoe / donut quality to it, isn't there? We know that. But he has not, as a manager, been able to find a solution to that. We had opponents today who started with Milner and Henderson in midfield.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say, because there are. I mean, we've said for 3 episodes in a row, Tuchel, Guardiola, and Klopp would all be starting McFred with United squad, but McFred and well, you used it as a singular earlier. You said McFred is. So McFred, I can't even, it doesn't matter whether it's singular, plural, I don't think, in this construct, but McFred would be playing better under a better coach, I suspect. It's a shame. It's only a matter of time. I wonder how long it'll be. I wonder if there's any chance in how they'll get the appointment even close to right next.
I mean, Ferguson's choice in Moyes, 2 pretty conservative choices in Van Gaal and Mourinho, and a desperate Hail Mary, which turned out well for 12 games in Solskjaer. There's no chance, right? So
that's maybe a little bit too harsh, maybe.
Well, those first 12 games, they
were really good.
And who even makes the decision now? Woodward's on his way out. He's got 2 months left in the job. Arnold is the presumptive, new chief executive, and he's a commercial guy, a rugby fan. Great. Let's bring in Clive, whatever his name is, from the England 2003 World Cup win.
I think his name's Clive Woodward. Maybe he's a relative.
Yeah. Scans, doesn't it? Murtagh, who's director of football, but, not one with power. Yeah, he's been promoted from a technical role. And Darren Fletcher, who's on the fucking training ground, but is technical director. I mean, who's making the decisions there about a new manager? What is the role of the coaches they have in place? So Phelan, Carrick, and McKenna in particular, none of whom seem to be coming up with different answers for Solskjaer at this stage. Solskjaer, who sees himself as more of a general manager who moves the chess pieces around and leaves the technical stuff to his ace team. Maybe they are an ace team, so we're told, but the results on the pitch kind of telling us something different. Nope,
the team is not an ace team. So that'll do. Who we got next?
Well, week off, no Champions League this week.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, they can spend a lot of time on the training ground working on detail and nuance and automatism.
They'd be spending more time on their Twitter accounts writing their apologies, won't they?
Well, Gary Neville was very upset about this, said it's disgusting. They're getting their social media teams to do it. The players should come out and speak. And then Carragher was like, Pogba came out and spoke last week, then he got dropped. Gary Neville was like, don't mind that. That's a terrible Gary Neville. I'm so sorry.
It was more Jeff Boycott than Gary Neville, that was.
Yeah, it was.
Wrong side of the pennants.
Oh. Yes, just awful. Sorry. Anyway, rubbish. So yeah, who are we playing after that?
Spurs next weekend. I mean Spurs who under Nuno, yeah.
It's the easiest game in our shocking run.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Right.
I mean, they lost today against West Ham, which is always good. So yeah, easiest game than Atalanta away, which will be interesting to see what that's like after they've got their players back. Then City. Do you think Solskjaer will make it to City? I mean, knowing Solskjaer, will come up with a result against City. No, not with it.
I just don't think that's true anymore.
Right.
Like you said last week, like make the bull case for this game, and I tried. I came up with something, and you were like, and it turns out you were very right to make a noise approximating that. But this isn't that side that's ready to switch it on, and the but the way that he's got results against City is by swarming them the second they get the ball, which you can't do if you play Cristiano Ronaldo. You literally can't do it. You're a man short in exactly the position where you most need a man to do that job.
Yeah,
so,
and in exactly the same way, if you play two midfielders against three, that they play in triangles around you, when the trigger for the press doesn't happen and there's always a spare man, it's a problem. I mean, Ronaldo made 7 pressures. I was looking at his pressures because I'm sad like that, against Atalanta, which was not his best of the season. He made 9 in the game against Villarreal. Some games he's made 1. So, and maybe they counted that when he took the kick off. I don't know. But it's definitely a problem. And also, you know, the second part of how United have won against City is to have a lot of pace on the break, which, of course, you're a man down there too. It'll be different against Spurs, though, because they are very conservative under Nuno and not playing particularly well either, you know.
Yeah, and funnily enough, we haven't had many of these games this season, or I feel like we haven't had many of these games this season, but I'm not sure I'd feel completely like desperate about the idea of United taking on a side that was sitting back and really trying to eke out a result against. I don't think that's a particularly good approach against United, really. At this point, I think you want to exploit the fact that their midfield's got a great big massive hole in it, and their centre backs, one of the Lindelof and Maguire partnership has been gloriously reunited, and Maguire and Luke Shaw just want to be as close together as possible on the pitch, even if they smash each other. I believe that is the second goal so far this season caused by Maguire and Shaw running into each other. Like, that is that should not happen once in a season. It definitely
just to come back,
twice.
I mean, I keep coming back to this. Why, for 2 of Liverpool's goals, did Maguire feel it necessary to come out to the right centre-back position and go chase the ball? Why?
I mean, then you also... Well, I wonder whether part of the answer to that is Victor Lindelof. But anyway, you can't... It was just a complete shambles, wasn't it? Just a complete shambles. But, I mean, I guess it'll be better against Spurs. I'd be surprised if Spurs turn us over, that's for sure, because they're just playing badly at the moment.
They are. Lost to West Ham today, lost to Vitesse in midweek. Did beat Newcastle last weekend, but there was not much. It was a weird game, and for various unpleasant reasons. But yeah, there's not a lot of fluency in this Spurs side at the moment.
I mean, they lost to Arsenal, although Arsenal did get a comfortable win this weekend, to be fair to them. But they beat Villa and then as well before the Newcastle game. That was a slightly weird game as well, if I remember it correctly. Anyway, yeah, they just don't seem very good. I tell you what, though, talking of Tottenham against West Ham, what you're looking for in a replacement manager for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is someone who's really got an attack performing coherently and maybe looking like more than the sum of its
We need
parts.
someone who's cut from the same cloth, don't we?
Someone who's learnt the lessons of the mistakes of the past and can come back renewed and refreshed to, take the to get the time they were never given.
God.
I mean, that's the thing about being all like gung-ho about being Ole out. I'm by the way, when I'm talking about he's got to go, I don't mean I'm standing on a barricade with a sign saying he's got to go. I just mean functionally it would seem that it's reached that point. But this is one where, unlike when Mourinho went and you're like, I would give just any human the job over Jose Mourinho, I don't feel that way about Solskjaer. And the next appointment is really worrying because let's have a serious conversation for a second about the potential candidates. Zidane, I think, is a big candidate, except I wonder if he's just holding out for the PSG job or the France job.
More likely the latter after Qatar, but I don't know anything about Zidane outside of the Real Madrid experience and that team he had.
And it didn't go great the second time around, did it? The
no,
Real Madrid
and you do know what you're going to get
experience.
with the other obvious candidate, which is Conte, which is chaos.
Oof.
I mean, are United really up for that? United's management, because they finally got sick of it with Mourinho.
I mean, you'd be throwing... I know there's been a sort of something of a seesawing from one sort of manager to another, as often happens, like, general election results do or whatever. But to go from... This is not a squad that needs something like... you do get that thing of like they've had a manager they really like for ages and actually they now kind of need a disciplinarian to come in and then certainly the other way around you get that when you need someone who's going to be an Ancelotti type figure and put an arm around the shoulder, etc. after Mourinho. But this needs somebody to build on what Solskjaer has done. This needs somebody who can continue to foster that positive spirit, that sense of pride in playing for Man United. I know we just lost 5-0 to Liverpool and looked like a damp squib doing it, but we have seen consistently that kind of, there is a unitedness to this team, which you need, but just someone who is, has a very contemporary vision of how football should be played and how to communicate that to players. I don't know who it is, but it's definitely not Antonio Conte.
No,
right?
Conte would be a return to the Mourinho era. I mean, different tactics, but the same level of intensity of demands, both of the board and his players. And then if it's not going right for him, he jumps ship. Has done it every single time. So, is that... And then someone will have to pick up in 2 years' time after Antonio Conte, for sure.
Yeah, so that would be disastrous. A friend of mine suggested that the Ajax manager
Ten Hag
would be like, that would be a bold and forward-thinking appointment, and he's made a team play really nice football. I don't know that would you really necessarily think, yep, I'm definitely gonna leave Ajax and do this job.
I'm sure if United pulled out the money for the compensation and went and chased him, they would. I mean, the question for United is, you just don't know. I mean, the size of club you get at United and the focus is very, very different from an Ajax side that is expected to win in Holland but nowhere else, right? So,
absolutely.
I don't know. And the same is true of some of the younger managers in the Bundesliga as well. So, anything beyond the two big names that are currently out of a job is a risk for United in that they don't know exactly what they are going to get or how the players will react to a manager of a lesser name or how the manager of a lesser name will adapt to being Manchester United manager. That said, Nagelsmann has gone to Bayern and they score 8 every week or whatever it is. So, you can get a young manager from a smaller club. I don't know. There isn't an obvious one in the Premier League you'd go and pick, is there?
The one that I would have, if you like, okay, you obviously can't have Klopp or Guardiola. or Tuchel, I guess, but wouldn't be particularly in like.
I mean,
Tuchel
the obvious one is Rodgers in that case. You know, the ex-Liverpool manager.
Yeah, right.
Who may be looking the other side of Manchester and thinking there's a better opportunity coming up there.
I don't think that. I'm not saying this would be a good idea. I would say that probably Graham Potter is the manager who most fits the bill of the kind of manager I would like to see at United. But I mean, the scale of risk you're taking that he could step up and manage players and under the pressure and under the spotlight of United. I mean, that is just a complete and utter roll of the dice. You know, can he do similar things that he's done everywhere he's been? I mean, he's made every step up so far, but this is a different level of step up. So, you know, I'm not saying let's appoint to Graham Potter. What I'm saying is I've got absolutely not a Scooby-Doo, and I can't think of a manager who I'd be like, yes, we got him in the world, which is mostly about my ignorance rather than anything else, but still.
Yes, but your level of knowledge
tough job, isn't it?
Is superior to the guy who'd actually make the decision, which is Joel Glazer.
Yeah, you might be right. Not many people I'd back myself in. Not many people in the football industry that I would back myself in a football discussion with. It's like Kroenke, the new Saudi lads, although I wouldn't get into it with them for obvious reasons, and Glazer. Anyway,
the new Saudi lads. Did you see the banner at Crystal Palace over the weekend? Which was, you know, so it was a Pogba level attacker, wasn't it? Going in 2-footed, but then you go, yep, got that right, called it out.
Absolutely, and there's one of about 3 groups of fans in the country who I believe there's a chance would have done it if it had been their own club as well. You know. Because that's the thing about other fans attacking these situations. Like, I remember when Newcastle fans came and chanted USA. Well, everyone
did for a while. Now it's boring.
Chanted USA. Yeah. So it was pretty boring at the time, but anyway,
as is this podcast, because we're 30 minutes in and we've clearly run out of things to say. So thoughts on what will happen in a week's time? I mean, will Ollie be in a job? Against Spurs, and then how's he going to turn this club around in the next 7 days?
I mean, I think having 7 days means I don't know that there'll be much of a hangover from this game by the time that comes around. These people are professional athletes and they are very good at doing things that real humans find really difficult to do. Regular humans.
This is
really
true, but there do need to be consequences for something like this. So, Pogba got the blame for recent performances, basically, from a professional point of view. Not publicly. Who is it? Like, you can't just fall back on this sort of platitudes of, we'll come back stronger, we'll do it together, passion, lads playing for the shirt. That's not actually how you turn professional sports performances around. So,
any chance Varane's coming back? Any chance Varane will be back by then?
Yeah, they've got to have the gaffer tape out. I don't know what part of his groin they need to stick back together, but it's. I don't think it's actually his groin that's the problem, is it? Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to be the physio trying to gaffer up Raphael Varane's groin. It was a muscle problem, which is you can't rush it back. Look at Harry Maguire.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've got no idea. It's not like you look at that starting 11 and go, oh, here's an obvious fix. Well, I mean, I look at the starting 11 and go, here's an obvious fix, but he's just not going to do it. He hasn't got the courage, and also he might not have the awareness that of the level of problem it is, because he's so caught up in the Unitedness of it all. He's so caught up in the comeback story, the reception that the fans give him every game, all that kind of stuff, But that's where, if you're going to say, okay, make one change to this United side, that's easily the change I make. Take Ronaldo out, put Cavani in, play the rest of the starting 11 and see how it goes.
We know we're at rock bottom. We can't feel any worse than this. Let's see where we take it, says Ollie, outlining his vision for what's coming next.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this after the last show. It's always the way. when the manager is at the end of his reign at United, and this is really unfair, the thing that always gets me the most, it's always the stuff they say. It happened with Moyes, it happened with Van Gaal, it definitely happened with Mourinho. And it's really unfair because the circumstances in which they talk and the constraints on them as they talk are ridiculous. So, they're always going to say bad stuff in these situations, but it's consistently maddening. So, yeah. Okay,
well, that's it. No interview this week because, honestly, I had a few ideas and then didn't get round to it. But backers, stay for Patreon content, which will be considerably more cheery than this.
Absolutely. And everyone else will see you next week. I think I've got 7 more shows.
You're counting down.
not that I'm counting down the days or anything.
I know you're not a betting man, Paul, but if you were, are you going to outlast Ollie or not?
No, if I was to gamble on it, I would say that Solskjaer will still be the manager. But I think if they made the little entreaties to see if Zidane was interested, they might do that. But otherwise, I don't think they're going to sack Solskjaer and replace him with Conte by Christmas. However, that's like which way I would come down on it if I had to bet one way or another. I don't think it's 10 to 1 shot or anything. I think it's like 6-4 or whatever. In my head, because if he loses,
I think that's right. Like Adam Crafton says, to tell Solskjaer he no longer belongs at Old Trafford is the United equivalent of shooting Bambi's mother, and that's it. Because if it wasn't Ollie Solskjaer in the job right now, he probably would have already gone.
Yeah, ages ago, right? So anyway, thanks everyone for listening.
The three of you have stuck with
this. Yeah, if you are Indian cricket fan and a Man United fan, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about your day. And yeah, Patreon backers, stay tuned for a load of chat about Bodo Glimt and Jose Mourinho. I'm quite looking forward to that. Been looking forward to it most of the week, to be honest.
See you next week, everyone.
See you next week.